Well, the former Finance Minister, Trevor Manuel, has now, this afternoon, made good on his promise to start the legal process to sue the media personality, Dr. JJ Tabane, for defamation. Speaking in a podcast called Hustler's Corner, Tabane claimed that Manuel and other people were involved in the formation of the political party COPE. Now, Manuel has said in court papers he wants Tabane to apologise for making the comments because they're not true. He also wants him to pay 100,000 rand in damages. Well, Trevor Manuel joins us now. Mr. Manuel, good afternoon to you, and thank you for your time. You've now lodged your papers.
Good afternoon, Stephen.
You've lodged your papers. You're asking for an amount of 100,000 rand. How did you come to that amount?
It's not the amount. It's not the amount. That's a nominal amount, Stephen. Let me go back to the discussion we had a week ago. I said then that I'd written to JJ asking him to recant his statement and apologize. And then we move on in life. I've never met a person who's not made a mistake, and it's okay to recognize a mistake, to apologize and move on. But when his attitude was that I should bring it on that he would not apologize, he said so to me in a letter. Now, there's an issue of dignity at play here. And if somebody wants to walk all over you, I think you draw a line in the sand and say, no, you won't cross this line. That's one part of it. There's another part of it because, as you correctly point out, Dr. Nkgopotse is a media personality. And I fervently believe that we have a responsibility to ensure that we fight for freedom of the media. But it creates a responsibility on those involved in media to ensure that facts matter. So you can't have a senior media personality making up things about people and suggesting that that's the truth. You look at this in the United States, you see Fox News and people like Tucker Carlson and so on, just making up stuff and being abusive of other people. And I think we must guard against that ever happening in this country. I think that this Hustler's Corner thing comes close to that. And we've got to ensure that we are intolerant of people who abuse media positions, because unless media is used to communicate first and then you can form opinions on top of that, media doesn't serve a role. And so the facts matter, and in this case, the facts certainly matter.
You say in your papers that if they withdraw now, in other words, if they apologize now, if they retract their statements, you would withdraw your action and you would not pursue costs against them. Is that part of what you're saying? You're giving them an out. If they apologize now, retract it completely, it all stops. You will have paid a little bit of money to lawyers, but you will let that go.
Look, litigation's always unbelievably expensive. I said it to you on radio early last Friday morning, Stephen. This is an expensive exercise. I know. Old Mutual has just come out of a very, very expensive litigation process. It's unbelievably expensive. And if people want to throw money at this because they're being pig-headed about what happened, then so be it. But, this isn't even about opinion. This is straight down the line facts. Was Trevor Manuel ever involved in COPE or not? It's not an opinion, it's a fact. And along with him, other people like Tito Mboweni and Enoch Godongwana, it's all a fact. So JJ shouldn't be allowed to make up facts. And so if he apologizes for having made up facts and he's prepared to publicize that, then we have to look at it, but deal with it in the instance.
I was interested that you mentioned Tito Mboweni and Enoch Godongwana, who's currently the finance minister, because our politics is a strange place, and I'm sure, like me, you've been sort of asking the question, why would Tabane make up these claims if they're not true? And our politics is a strange place. It made me wonder if maybe you weren't, I don't know, the target. Maybe there was some other agenda here. Could someone else be the point of this in our quite complicated politics?
Look, I hope that JJ can explain why he came up with those three names, because I know that the other individuals were not involved, like I wasn't involved. And so unless it's a target at finance ministers past and present, I can't work out what the agenda is. But it's a strange combination of people to bring together in the context of a discussion about COPE. Now, we've had a statement, a very clear statement from COPE, articulated by Dennis Bloom, its spokesperson, saying, no, it's a malicious rumor. We were never part of, the named individuals were never part of COPE. So why does he persist with this? The ball, as I said last week, is in JJ Tabane's court to explain why he did what he did and why he took the posture that he did when I invited him to apologize last week.
Well, you make the point that it's, three sort of finance ministers, past and present, Ilian Kwanagwana, Tito Mboweni, and yourself. At the time COPE was formed in 2008, your memory of this would be better than mine, but you were all in very different places.
We were all in very different places. I know that in 2008, when Tito Mboweni left cabinet and took the position of advisor to Dr. Stalsky, governor of the Reserve Bank, he actually resigned his all positions in the ANC so that he could not be seen as party political when he was responsible for the Reserve Bank. I was the finance minister, and memory eludes me on what Enoch Godongwana was doing, but none of us were involved in the COPE initiative at the time. In fact, I'm pretty clear that because I was the finance minister at the time, or any of the three of us, if we were present in COPE meetings, I mean, it's very strange that not a single journalist or commentator picked up the fact that we were there. If the finance minister of a government who represents a party is involved in establishing a counter-party, it has to be newsworthy. Not because it's Trevor Manuel, it just has to be newsworthy. And so, how all of this was overlooked and why JJ insisted, notwithstanding that kind of reality, I don't know.
Mr. Manuel, if I may, I would just like to ask a question about our economy and where we are. The Reserve Bank increasing interest rates by 50 basis points today. Our economy is in serious trouble. A lot of it's, just our society and where we are. Some of it may be around policy. A lot of it also to do with what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening with the lockdown in China. We can't control everything that happens. If you were asked, what advice would you have for government, for perhaps a finance minister, for anyone involved in trying to help our economy right now?
I think one of the issues that we need to be aware of in economic policy making is that there are very few hard, sharp surprises. I have yet to read the statement by the Monetary Policy Committee of this afternoon, but if you've tracked inflation over the past while, you could see that it is touching the upper limit of the inflation target that had been set. So to prevent it exceeding the limit and then creating all manner of difficulties, the Reserve Bank had to act. But similarly, I think that understanding the fiscus now is fundamentally important because the economy is flat on its back. There's no growth. There's very few jobs available. Notwithstanding that, the revenue yield for last year was very, very promising. And I think that trend line continues, and it's because of commodities, but not only because of commodities. And that then puts pressure on every rand spent by government. So government needs to be very careful about announcing projects that don't actually contribute to the well-being of people. And I think it's also important, even more so in the wake of Zondo, that every sphere of government be looked at, that every rand available be spent in a way that actually advances the interests of the majority of South Africans. Local government, provincial government, and national government, there has to be a better alignment of this. It's the best we can hope for right now.
Trevor Manuel, I appreciate the time. I appreciate you answering a question around that. Thank you very much indeed. Trevor Manuel, of course, you'll know, is a former Minister of Finance and confirming that he's lodged his legal papers there against the media personality, Dr. JJ Tabane. Now, as we understand it, we have several times tried to speak to Dr. Tabane to get him on air to hear his side of the story. Unfortunately, still unavailable. However, at some point, if this continues, we will expect him to give his own reply through legal papers. We'll report on those the moment they become available.